Elle Fanning, for Effie Trinket in the upcoming Hunger Games movie that Lionsgate is doing. She will be the younger version of Elizabeth Banks' character. And she gave an interview recently to MTV where she was saying that she feels that she was cast because online the fans were just hounding Lionsgate that they really wanted her to be in this role. And I think the fact that Lionsgate capitalized on this and went with the fan suggestion is a really smart and strategic move that I wish more media companies, publishing houses, all of that would lean into, because give the people what they want. If you have people telling you what they want to see on the screen through the vehicle of social media, where it's a two-way conversation now. This is not just production companies passing down what they want to see. If you can make it a more of a two-way street, a two-way conversation, why not? Give people a reason to go to the movie theater, to not wait till the more convenient option, the cheaper option of streaming it at home. Um, this just seems like a dumb move to me, so I'm curious what your thoughts on it are, because they didn't have to listen, right? It's
Mhm.
not a choice they had to make, so I'm curious what your thoughts are, as you have a personal connection to
Yeah.
this, series as well.
The personal connection is that it was a first date my husband and I had. We went to the original Hunger Games as our like first date. So that the books and like the movies all are just like
Yeah.
are pretty they have sentimental value to me and us. But yeah, I mean I'm a huge fan of like the Hunger Games, and this is actually one of the like examples we've talked about it before when they started doing the rollout of the original um cast that they were putting out. That I love that they were slow rolling their announcements, that it wasn't like, oh, here we're announcing everybody, right? It's like, no, they
Yeah.
were creating individual videos for each of the cast members, starting off with some of the smaller ones, and then doing laying out some of like the big ones. But Effie Trinket was one of the ones that took a while, right? And then as the process was like rolling up, I was paying attention to the conversation happening with, surrounding Elle Fanning, and I was like, actually, she would be, a great one. And a lot of what was going on there was just seeing that, like, they would put just photos of her wearing, like, some
Well,
outlandish outfits, saying that she would be a great vehicle for the movie promo, like, red carpet tour, because, like,
yeah.
the outfits that she would be wearing would be amazing. Um, the fact that she was a good actress. At the time, she was working on The Great, which kind of, like, fits, similar vibes to the movie, or like,
Yeah.
to the role.
Yeah.
So there was just a lot kind of going in that direction. And there wasn't anybody else that was really coming up as like a suggestion, which I thought was interesting, right? Because I've seen before where, I mean, we see it with James Bond, right? Like there's
Mm.
lots of fan casting options there. We've heard, Idris Elba. We've heard, I think Henry Cavill the first time around. Now I think he's aged out. The latest one is Aaron Taylor Johnson, right? So there's a lot
Mm.
of, options there, which I think makes it harder for, the James Bond people to come around, because at that point it's like, who do you choose, right? Like, do you
Right.
try to figure out who's the most popular, or like who's the best actor? So in general, I like the principle, and I like that they did it for this instance. I think each instance it has to like make sense for that.
Yeah.
One argument I've seen that I do kind of agree with is the whole idea that like usually with these types of movies, you want to get somebody that isn't well known, right? Like the original Hunger
Mm.
Games with Jennifer Lawrence. Like at the
Right.
time, she wasn't that well known. She was like an indie star that had only been in like Winter's Bone.
Mhm.
And this was kind of like her launch pad, right? Similar with Twilight, right? Kristen Stewart had been known a little bit more, but Robert Pattinson, right? Like really had it.
Right.
And that's kind of was a star making vehicle for them. And if now we're just kind of casting, people that are well known, like, are we not giving people that opportunity? I saw that most
Yeah.
recently with the Beatles, casting,
Oh,
where it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
all these are like well known guys. Like, why wouldn't you, choose people that are less well known, that look more like the characters, or I mean, they're not characters. I mean, they're like the
Yeah.
real
The
Beatles,
people.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder if you've seen those arguments or whether that makes you think
Yeah, I
differently.
certainly have, and I think for bigger characters in a series like that, I totally get it. You don't want to alienate people who have their own reasons and choices for wanting those kind of main character roles to be very specific people, especially in the
Mhm,
James Bond case. But I think for this one, where it's kind of a more of a side character, it's a great way to capitalize on the buzz around it. And
mhm,
I think this speaks to the larger trend of just capitalizing on fandoms. I mean, think about all the movies that come from books these days. There are
mhm,
sites devoted just to fan casting, and for people who like me, who when they read a book can't put a face to a character, I always have to go look it up, and I love to see who people pick for these
mhm,
different characters and books that I read, and so much IP is coming from books and series like this today. So
mhm,
I think for the people who are already invested, who've already thought about it, who like want to see someone specific on screen, this is a strategic play at fandom
mhm,
for these companies. And I think that as it becomes harder and harder for people to, like you said, butts and seats, get them to the concert, get them to the movie theater, you gotta give them a reason to be there, because it's way more convenient to just watch it at home or wait till later,
mhm.
and these are kind of industries that are struggling right now, so I feel like the fandom angle is a unique approach to how do we how do we shift? How do
Mhm.
we do this more strategically?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's ways to like do both, and I think they really actually did
Yeah.
that for this movie. The main actors are not well known. Sorry, so
Mhm.
for Sunrise at the Reaping, it's the story of Haymitch and his Hunger Games. So the Haymitch character is brand new, Lenore as well. Maisie is also like new. So all like the kids are generally like new. Um, this one, Elle Fanning, is playing a character that we already knew. So I think it makes
Mhm.
sense. For that. One thing I really liked about this, I don't know if you saw, was that Elizabeth Banks congratulated Elle Fanning
Oh,
and like sent her a
smart.
personal message saying like, welcome, you're gonna love the character, you're gonna do great, which I thought was
Yeah.
also really like good marketing because it's like you're
Mhm.
involving, previous cast members and you're making it seem as if they're all like buddy buddy and like friendly. Um, and, that adds to, like, the allure, I think.
Yeah.
I also think that you're right in saying, getting people involved and, like, making them feel as if they're part of the process gets their buy-in a little bit more
Yeah.
of, like, "Oh, that's exactly who I was thinking should be, this," or, like, "I came around and, like, I learned this person. I totally agree that that's who, it should be." Um so I think that that's, like, a great way to continue
Yeah.
involving, people, and I think we probably are gonna start seeing more of that. Fan casting is not going away. It's, like, one of the most popular ways that, like, people kind of join a community and become part of a community. It's, like, kind of
Mhm.
having those, like, debates about, like, who would be the best, person for that role. One other thing I wanted to shout out here was, the fact that I'm not surprised it's Lionsgate, which recently we
Mm.
talked about. They just hired a bunch of creators from TikTok to start creating fan cam views for their own like in-house Lionsgate TikTok because they're seeing that those like
Oh.
creators are bringing in people and that they're like the highest rated, like even over their own content. um so that's showing that they have their, like, finger on the pulse of what's happening with, like, the movies in their space, right?
Yeah.
They're bringing in people that they know can, like, promote their movies in a way that's popular right now, right? Like, fan cams are super popular in terms of, like, how content is being created. And this is, like, one of those things that I've talked about repeatedly here where it's like, I'm surprised that some of the studios aren't, like, trying to capitalize on that. So
Yeah.
when they did that, I was like, of course, like finally somebody did it, Um, we previously, actually, I think the same week that we talked about that, I talked about how Warner Brothers goes after people for their IP, right? Like the
Right.
week that the Paul Thomas Anderson movie came out, one thing after another, someone posted a like clip about Leonardo DiCaprio doing like the Mexican whistle,
Right.
which went viral. I think it was 3 times over because there was 3 different viral tweets that that came out on Twitter, and WB had them taken down for IP, for copyright issues.
Oh,
And I'm just
interesting.
like, "You're trying to get people to come watch the movie. Why would you take it down?" It was literally like a 15-second clip, Like,
Yeah.
fine, yes, technically it's you're a copyright and your IP, whatever, But, like, if you're trying to get people to get interested in going to see the movie, then you have to let them create the types of, like, fan art that will get people to notice that your movie is out, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um actually, recently, Netflix has also, started giving people the tools to be able to create those, snippets because they previously were also taking that down. So they
Oh.
finally just realized, like, wow, we're getting people to, like, watch our shows because fan cams are out there and, like, showing the different relationships, right? Like, how many times did I see The Summer I Became Pretty or something?
Summer I Turned Pretty?
The Summer I Turned Pretty, yes.
Sure.
I saw, like, so many of those. It didn't get me to watch the show. It did get me to learn everything about it, though.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
of course.
um, I really think that it's, like, involving your community and allowing them to participate with you, is one of the best ways to get people to, watch your show because they learn about it and they learn that there is a community and that you can join and be a part of them. So,
Yeah.
smart of them.
The the final marketing takeaway I will say about that is as media properties become more fan associated, I feel like this is a really strategic avenue for merchandising as well.
Mm,
So production houses like Shondaland that has Grey's Anatomy and Bridgerton, they are getting into fan experiences. They did a branded cruise. They have a whole line of scrubs because that's the Grey's Anatomies
mhm.
and, very strategic tie in there. And so they have been very thoughtful and deliberate about, again, what's a new touch point where we can diversify income streams around these media properties, but also just build deeper connections through other avenues. And so I think, again, leaning into fandom, leaning into what does your audience want? What do they care about? What are things that would help make this relationship a little bit stickier? I feel like it's going to be the future, the next wave of social media gave the audience a voice. Now, what do we do with it? And
Mhm.
so merchandise just makes so much sense.
We're seeing that with Timothy Chalamet and the Marty Supreme
Exactly.
tour,
Same
right?
thing.
Like,
Same thing.
the people showed up, but they bought everything. Now I think, they're gonna do a digital experience and have that online. I assume it's gonna come out,
Mhm.
within, like, the next week,
Yeah.
in order to have, like, the tie-in for, like, the movie to come out on Christmas Day. So
Yep.
imagine, you're a fan, you get your family to buy you the jacket because it's, like,
Yeah.
Christmas. It's a easy way to spend $250, and then going to the movie with your family on Christmas Day. So I
Yep.
totally agree. For Bridgerton, I see that they've done like balls, actual like balls, where
Yes.
it's like people dress up and like go to them.
Yep.
Some of them have been more like fire festival balls,
Mhm.
where it's like nobody showed up or it was like fake. It wasn't like Shondaland. As companies start doing these types of experiences, like trying to keep a handle on like what's being done with like their brand and like the name
Yes.
is going to become more and more
Yeah.
important because dupes are a thing within like merch, but then also you have these like bad experiences that people, talk about online,
Right.
that, you want to make sure people know that your thing is like the actual thing.
Yeah. Yeah, Shondaland's a unique use case here because they've been very strategic and they've collaborated with very established brands. So they've worked with Fever Events. They collaborate closely with Netflix. They have a great partner in them, it sounds like. So they're very thoughtful in how if they're going to put the Shondaland property name on anything, it's going to be done very well. And so I think that they are a use case that people should look to of like, how do we go about doing this? And I think it is a matter of like okay, Taylor Swift is another perfect example.
Hmm.
Any city you go to, there's a Taylor Swift karaoke night or like DJ night, whatever. That's not licensed, but when
Hmm.
it comes to something like this where it's a higher price ticket. It
Hmm.
is something that you're probably going to like really get dressed up and go all out for. Those feel like the next tier up and those
Yeah.
feel a little bit more strategic, a little bit more deliberate. And they're usually like much they're offered less often, so
Hmm.
they're very rare. It's kind of a big splashy thing when they do come along. And it's for the super fans. It's not for the casual passerby who like casually likes it. It's for the people
Yep.
who are crazy about this show or this movie.
Hmm.
So, yeah, very different levels of intensity for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it does remind me of, like, Disney though, right? Because like, even
Yeah.
within that, they
It's
have, like, huge levels to their fandom, right?
absolutely.
Because you have, like, the
Absolutely.
cruises, the, like, different hotels, obviously the Disneyland and Disney World, and even within that, you have, like, tiers, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's, like, a huge, example of, like, what's
Mhm.
working, right?
Yeah.
And it really goes to show that, like, people want to spend on the things that they care about. So it's like really
Absolutely.
trying to find those channels of like what works for your particular, customer. Like, what is it
Mhm.
that they want from you, and like what makes sense, right? I like that the tie-in with Bridgerton and like the Regency balls and stuff, right? Because it's like you
Mhm.
don't really get that elsewhere, right? Um,
No. It's very
uh,
novel.
Exactly. I mean, you have like Renaissance fairs, which is, similar, right? People like to dress up
Yeah.
and they like to participate, and that becomes like its own community. But trying to come up with those like unique angles that make sense like for your brand. I think it also ties into another thing that I think is like really working well for brands these days, which is creating those types of experiences where it's like,
Mhm.
how can you get people to participate in like one-off events that like make them feel a little closer to like your brand or what you're trying to sell, right? Um, again with like the Marty Supreme thing was like that's I think what they're trying to do there. Mainly because they're competing against two like tentpole films in like, during the holiday season, which is Wicked, which just
Mhm.
came out, and Avatar, which is coming out in December,
Oh,
the
man.
week
Yeah.
before it comes out. And I think they realize that like most people are going to spend money on those films because like, well, everybody has to see those films, right? Those are part of the monoculture, right?
Yeah.
um how do we make them come out for this, right? And that's like, let's create an
Right.
experience. And I think that we see that in concerts, right? Where it's like, obviously everyone, it's, an easy yes to go to like a Taylor Swift concert, but what's going to make you go to that like smaller band, rock band
Mhm.
concert, right? And we've
Yeah.
given examples here of like, well, we had the All American Rejects start performing at gas stations and like, backyards,
Frat
because they're like,
parties. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like, well, get people to come out to those type of events. So it's like the fact that they're participating at like someone's house is like novel these days, right? Because like people don't
Yeah.
have house parties anymore, which is a whole other thing. But just the
RIP.
idea that like it centers around like, well, where do bands start? In the garage. Well, where are garages, houses? Okay, let's have a house party, right? It's like it
Yeah.
makes sense. Like those are the steps it takes of like how things like make sense for people. And I think that that's what people like when they're able to make those ties of like what makes sense. They're more willing to like participate in it. And then
Yeah.
anything that like seems unique, they're willing to
Mhm.
spend, upwards of like thousands of dollars in order to
Yeah. Of
participate, right?
course. Of
So
course.
yeah, what are those things that will get like your hardcore users to want to participate with your brand without it being cringe?
Yeah. True. Important factor there too.
Hmm.
Oof.